Alright, so today's video is going to be on the original Matrix movie. Did a Matrix rewatch, watched all four. I know some people out there might be a sort of similar thing to Star Wars, where you might consider it only a three-movie trilogy because, you know, one of the movies is it's not that great. But yeah, this is going to be the original Matrix movie. Let's go ahead and start off with the plot. The plot of the original Matrix movie, I'd give it an 8/8. It's very solid. It's a very solid plot. I mean, now how they execute that plot is kind of, I think, the part that's up in the air. But the plot itself is actually very solid in the first movie. Just the concepts that they have in there, as far as, you know, the Matrix and basically the AI taking over and like putting humans in like basically these battery farms and stuff like that, and then having to create like a simulated world in order to keep like humans' minds at bay in order for them to harvest the power for their electricity, and how that individual you know, how basically every, you know, individual person in there is actually in the Matrix, and they are a real person, but at the same time their like consciousness is a little asleep. It's a very interesting idea. I will say the only thing as far as how that goes is like I just don't see how like how the AI just wouldn't have all the control over the simulation, over the Matrix. I don't see how like it becomes a problem, where you know, Neo can even, and they go over some of this. I don't want to spoil it because these are mainly things that get talked about in the later movies, but they go over some of it, of how like humans are able to kind of like be on an even playing field in the Matrix. But anyway, for plot, 8/8, very very solid, complex thing. Feel like they did a pretty good job of explaining it in a meaningful way. It's complex, but it's not in the same way. But I just feel like they did a good job of explaining exactly what's going on in the first movie. Dialogue. Now the dialogue, it's weird. It's not good. It's not good dialogue. But the reason it has an 8, oh, hold on, gotta pop it up here. The reason it has an 8.4 for me is because the memorable lines in here are crazy. I mean, there's maybe 4 or 5 just iconic lines in here, and you know that means something. Iconic lines, you know. I think there's two ways you can do dialogue. You can do dialogue where it's, you know, it helps story, and it's impressive as far as how it, you know, how it helps you tell your story. But I think, you know, if you get some iconic lines in there, I'm not gonna, you know, just because they're silly sounding, I'm not gonna like downvote you on dialogue, basically. But yeah, they do a really good job of memorable lines in this movie. Not necessarily the best as far as what they're saying, but they're definitely memorable lines. Mainly from Morpheus. There's some from Neo too, but mainly from Morpheus. All right, acting. This is the most generous rating of the entire review here. Even the best actors in this aren't necessarily that good. It didn't take me out of the first movie, how the acting was. That is not the case for the rest of the movies. I'll just go ahead and say that. Yeah, this is the highest rating for the entire franchise of The Matrix as far as acting goes. So that kind of lets you know what you're getting into with these movies. They're not necessarily the best when it comes to dialogue and acting, and I don't know, you're not watching for that. You're watching for the plot. You're watching for the fights. You're not watching for acting and dialogue. Cinematography. Now, this is another tricky one, but I give it an 8/8. For the time, I think an 8/8 is about the right rating. Some of the action scenes in this movie are really cool. They do a really good job with choreography along with cinematography. That's more in the action category. By the way, I had to change the fights category to action because I think one of these movies, you wouldn't classify it as like a fight, but it is action. So I had to change it. I don't think it was for the Matrix movies because they have clear fights in it. But yeah, now the fight category is now action. Yeah, so cinematography 8/8 for the time it came out, which I believe was 1999. Let me check. Yeah, 1999. I mean, this is a 25-year-old movie, and it looks good. It looks good, and the fights look good, and it's got a weird tint when they're in the Matrix, but you kind of have to do that when it comes to showing another world, especially a simulated world. Yeah, I think it was really good for the time, and it still is okay looking now. Um, Soundtrack 9. Soundtrack's the best thing about this entire franchise. I'm gonna keep it a buck. It's the best thing about the entire franchise. Like the classic Matrix soundtrack. It's well, now I'm looking at my ratings, and it's really only this movie. They don't. The later movies don't really get into it too much. I do remember that from when I watched. I watched this within the week, but I'm not fresh coming off of this. It's been a couple of days now. It's been 3 or 4 days since I finished all of it, which means I watched The Matrix maybe about a week and a half ago, the original, the one I'm reviewing today. But yeah, the music, especially in this movie, is really good, really iconic, really just like I don't know, fits the tone well, which I wouldn't have. I don't know. It does a good job of that like action adventure, like another world type vibe. All right, so then we go to our bonus categories before the total. Not applicable for immersion and for comedy. They're not trying to do either of the two. World building, I give it a 9-1 for world building. I feel like they did a pretty good job of explaining a lot of stuff in the first movie. I feel like, honestly, I mean, again, not to spoil my future reviews here, but it goes down a little bit. It goes down a little bit past this movie. I just feel like they get a little, I don't know, I don't want to say closed-minded, but they get focused on something else, and I would have been more interested if they would have gone deeper into the world-building elements of the Matrix, but they didn't, and that's whatever. Characters 8-6, there's some very memorable names in here. Neo, Trinity, Morpheus, what's this guy? Agent Smith. Yeah, there's very memorable character names, and even like the side characters, I can't remember many of their names right now, but for people that are really into these movies, obviously they're memorable names for them. Action, I give it a 9-2. The fights in this movie are pretty good. The action, I think, holds this movie up a little bit. It's mainly the main things that like prop this up are. I'll go ahead and outline the pillars here. The pillars here. There we go. Trying to talk too fast. Yeah, the plot 8-8, cinematography 8-8, soundtrack 9, world building 9-1, and action 9-2. It's kind of a weird group of categories to put together, because you would think if they had some of these, they'd also have like acting or dialogue, or I don't know, they'd have other major categories, and they just don't. Yeah, so the action was a 9-2. The final rating, and this is going to be a little surprising given the other ratings I have up here, but the final rating for me for The Matrix is an 8-1. Now, I know that might be a little surprising considering if you look at the average of all those ratings right there, if you look at all the average, it's probably about a 8.6, 8.7, I'd imagine. Probably about a 8.7, honestly, now that I'm looking at it. But yeah, the reason why I don't have it there is just because, having your dialogue and your acting, again, the dialogue got its rating strictly because of it being iconic. The cinematography got its rating because of the time it was made. The soundtrack, I can't really bash the soundtrack. The soundtrack's pretty good. The world building was kind of because it was like a first of its kind sort of thing. A lot of other movies have done similar things to The Matrix. It's just, we're a couple, we've seen The Matrix, so those other movies doing it is not impressive. But when the blueprint gets made with The Matrix, it makes that world building of what they did impressive. Yeah, so yeah, I know the rating is a little low compared to the average, but I stand by it. I think the movie's okay. It's good. It's iconic. I'll give a little spoiler for my future reviews here, because I'm not telling you what the ratings are, but this is the highest it gets, and with an 8-1, and it definitely goes down a notch, and I guess you'll see that if you watch the video. If not, just know that this is the highest of all the Matrix movies that I watched, and I watched 4 of them. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and peace.